If you haven't been sufficiently scared shitless today, I'm here to provide that for you. So this is in Democracy Now. UN warns of water wars as 2 billion people lack clean water with Africa and the Middle East hardest hit. So this is one of those things where, when you talk about the impact of climate change, this is on the top of the list of concerns around it. And by the way, this one is almost never brought up. Every time I read an article on climate change, they bring up like rising sea levels and like certain cities are in trouble if they're at sea level or just below sea level, like Miami or New Orleans or whatever. But this is like a much more pressing concern. And again, it's not brought up very often. Well, now the UN is sounding the alarm over it. So here's what they say. A new report by the United Nations warns that a quarter of humanity lacks access to safe drinking water, and nearly half of the global population has no access to basic sanitation. Unless action is taken, 60% of the world's population could face water supply issues by 2050. 60% of the world's population by 2050 could have water supply issues. At the UN Water Conference in New York last week, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres addressed the report's findings and warned of the potential link between water scarcity and war. So, look, we're used to the concept of war over territorial disputes, war over religion, war over a plethora of natural resources like oil, for example. But wars over water is not something that, you think about, because to this point, even though we do have serious water issues now, the idea that 60% of the world would have water supply issues by 2050, the idea that that would be on the table is mental. It wouldn't be on the table. That wouldn't happen. But with climate change, this is one of the effects of it. And so when we're in desperate need of fresh water supplies, and we can't find it, what happens then? Well, most straightforward thing that would probably happen is whoever has the water is under attack by people who don't have the water, who need the water, right? I mean, we're already seeing in the Western U.S., there's already been a number of serious water issues about water rights in certain states where, you're having water scarcity issues and they're trying to find a way to address it legally. And I mean, that's already a problem. But when we talk about 60% of the world's population will not have enough water, it's like, that's not something, like, that's not fixable. That's not fixable. And in a state like that, like, the natural reaction from human beings is like, I'm just going to kill you and take your water. It's a terrifying thought, man, but that's the path we're going down. I mean, this is real basic stuff. And, part of me says, well, they just better speed up the research on trying to come up with desalination plants, right? Like where you could take seawater, salt water, and basically make it fresh water. Like, ideally, that is what would happen, but apparently that's a very, very difficult thing to do, and it requires a tremendous amount of power in order to do it, and you can only get the tiniest amounts of the water to be fresh water, and so it's a lot more complex than just invent a thing that does it, I mean, we clearly need, we need to address this in a number of different ways in order to, what seems like now would be staving off the inevitable. Like, it seems like it's inevitable that we're going to have this issue. By the way, another big issue, which is rarely talked about when it comes to climate change, is that there are going to be places which are literally uninhabitable because it's too hot for human beings. And a lot of those places are in the Middle East, by the way. So what's going to happen? You're going to empty out the Middle East, and there's going to be another immigration or refugee crisis in different places throughout the world. It's like, you ain't seen nothing yet. If you think Iraq or Syria has led to, or Libya has led to a migrant crisis, it's going to be way worse than that when entire regions are uninhabitable. So when you have weather that's too hot for humans to live, and you have 60% of the world's population facing water shortages, And I got to be honest with you guys, I don't think we're going to do shit to try to fix it. I really don't. I really don't. Because that's not how we, like, for whatever reason, that is not how human beings function. It's not like, if you give us a long-term problem, we think like, well, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. It doesn't, we never address it right away. It's always like when the problem is here, then we try to do something. But what if in that scenario, it's too late to do anything? And this is the issue with climate change. You know, we're the frog in boiling water. And so you don't act until it's too late, and then there's nothing you could do about it. So absolutely devastating. The water wars are coming. I think that's true. And I wish our leaders would get on trying to fix it, but we know how ineffectual and pathetic they are in a variety of different ways, and how corrupt they are, which is why they never focus on real issues. And so we're out here on our own trying to figure it out, which is a terrifying, terrifying thought. Ever since Adpocalypse, when YouTube defunded all independent news and politics overnight, we haven't trusted them. We know they can pull the rug out from underneath us at any time. If you enjoy this content, please consider tipping $1 or $2 per month on the Secular Talk Patreon. Link in the video description box below. Thanks for your support.